So I don't know who I haven't started with recently, so I'm just going to go with Rick this time. All right, Rick. What are some now? You had the questions up front, and for full disclosure, I give the people the questions up front. Unfortunately, Timothy was mistaken. He didn't have the right set of questions, so he's been flying off the seat of his pants the entire time. So good on you. But I combined the two questions that you're aware of, and so those two questions essentially were: what are some of the most innovative mechanics you've seen in TTRPGs? Now let's add the second one in there, and how do these mechanics enhance role playing and/or gameplay?
Okay. Well, for me, it's the cipher system. Now, not for the reasons that a lot of people may, guess at, but it falls in a line of when I was trying very hard as a game master to not move players, not impose feelings on the players, not do that sort of thing, not to allow the characters full kind of a co-creation in the game as well. That was a real challenge to me. And what I found with Cypher was it opened up that door to saying, hey, it's all right. The GM intrusion and the player intrusion are part of that, part of the package of the game system in Cypher system. So if the player rolls a 20, there's going to be a lot of things that the player can do. They can introduce the lone stranger that comes in and with the gun, and like in Fallout, comes in and intervenes or something like that. There are things that the players can do that bring in, that extra component in the game, the extra unknown, and that really kind of pulled my thinking, into being a lot more open about how much co-creation players could be allowed in a game. And I've done many sessions where I have limited co-creation. I've had some where it's full on open, and each time I tell you, it gets me in here sometimes where I'm like, yeah, I'm still fighting it, but I know this is cool. Okay. I'm letting, because we are very player driven. Like I'm hardly putting in anything into the game. The players are driving how this is going along. They are deciding on which areas they're going to, explore more, and so Cypher had opened that up for me. Plus, I like the idea in Cypher of one roll. And the D20, you don't add anything to their D20 at all in Cypher. What you're doing in Cypher is the game master is lowering the challenge rating of the target number that you need to hit or succeed or to accomplish something. So that gets brought down as soon as the players start interacting with the thing. This one's assisting this, so it brings it down by 1. He's using some effort, so it brings it down another, and there's various combinations. So I go ahead and display, I alleviate the questions of where are we at, by having it broadcasted on top with a banner showing you them bringing down the challenge. So. And that really helped me get over the hump of not allowing the players any kind of agency, finding stuff, that sort of thing. So to me, that really helped me out. I thought that was very innovative, and it made me very open to other systems to have that interaction, the player intrusion, the GM intrusion. Really bad roll, I'm going to bring in something else. I'm not just going to have, I'm not going to break your sword or whatever you may, think that would happen. No, I'm bringing in some more enemies here in the situation or whatever it is, that's happening. The player intrusion. Now the player is allowed to bring in something, from the outside as well. So it gives them options. You must have you got to have a really good crew of players, ones that are playing to survive the game, but not to win the game. So that is important.
It's interesting you say that, though, because that still reminds me very much of like the Modifius system with the momentum. Now I have thoughts about momentum because I think it's just it's people, the banking of it to me becomes gamified. I prefer the way Free League did it with Coriolis, where you either use it now or forever hold your peace kind of thing.
Yeah.
So I like it conceptually. I just don't like this whole banking concept with Modifius, but it sounds very similar to that, I guess, is the point that I'm making.
Yeah, I have one Modifius game. It's Infinity. Now, you know, I also like painting miniatures, and I like skirmish gaming too. So Infinity has always had a place in my heart. One of their painters, I parlay with them quite a bit. Iraldes, he used to paint all their miniatures for show, and excellent painter. I would highly recommend Angel Iraldes as somebody to go to for painting advice, and very, very open, but I love Infinity. And the problem is Infinity is stuck in this Modifius. And I'm like, how do I play a role-playing game of Infinity without these rules where it's got these, I'm just like, how do I do this? Anyways, I simply bought those rules so that I had all the setting information. Okay. I'll probably end up doing Traveler with it or something like that instead, in order to, make it a little bit more of an easier system for us. But which we have no qualms, as in our groups to kind of mix and match our rule sets. If this feels more like it could work for Infinity, we'll use it. So,
that'll lead me to a follow-up question that I'll ask you. Then I'll probably ask this to all of you guys, so you might want to pay attention. Have you brought any innovations from one game into another game purposely because you really thought that it was an interesting, unique, whatever mechanic that, you know what, if I bring that into this game, that's just going to make it that much better?
Yeah, I always have my cards. So,
Okay, yeah, you did mention that. Good point. Good point.
Grab my cards here. These ones are encounter cards. They give you 3 different ideas on there. So I just go ahead and I might grab a piece of one. I might grab both of them, 2 out of the 3 or something like that. There's different descriptors in there of color, smells, something interesting, so I'll just bring it in. Okay. And that really influenced my game a lot by kind of opening it up to a lot of more, what's it called? Improv. So it really helped me with my improv chops. So.
All right. Well, let's bounce up to. He's now muted, so we'll go over to Jim Fritz, I guess. Then, same question for you. What are some of the most innovative mechanics you've seen in TTRPGs, and how do these mechanics enhance role-playing gameplay?
I think any kind of mechanics that facilitate immersion and role play are fantastic.
Do you have an example of one? Okay, never mind.
An example of that would be, again, some of the stuff Free League has done. I remember the first time reading some of Free League's games, like the fear mechanic. Is it the fear mechanic from Alien?
Stress mechanic.
That's fantastic.
That's awesome. Yes.
That's fantastic. Just generally how Free League handles their skill checks with pushing and things like that, where it kind of forces you, not force you, but it kind of inspires you to role play a certain way, because, oh my God, you failed your roll. You're going to push. Now you got to take a condition. What does that look like? How does that affect the outcome? What or the roll? And the player has to role play this stuff. So it's kind of like putting the mechanics into the role play together seamlessly. That kind of mechanics always impressed me, and I like that with Free League. Other things are like, again, with Free League, they have dice mechanics to help facilitate record keeping, resource management, like your arrow and your ammos run out with a die roll, as opposed to, I shot 1.
It's not a spreadsheet simulator, but it's there, and you do have to think about it. I love it. Yes.
That stuff is great. That's innovative to me.
By the way, you took away one of my responses.
I did. You're welcome.
It's fine.
Like Rick was talking about integrating some cards and stuff into the games. Now, I don't think I've taken from other games as much
Really?
and put into my games, but I have taken generic stuff like tables and dice that create prompts for you or cards.
Well, I think that would count because I mean those are mechanics. I mean, maybe innovative might be a strong word, but they're innovative mechanics that you liked that helped you in other games.
I like that. Because I'm big on prompts, things that create these situations that I could just go with because I love that in my games. But that's probably what I look for and I enjoy the most is those kind of mechanics that integrate with the role play and immersion rather than being this separate thing that kind of distracts us from the role play, with modifiers and everything. Fantastic. Yeah. And I would add one more.
Okay.
Max, we talked about this last night. I think one of the coolest mechanics that someone has come up with was the advantage disadvantage mechanic.
Yes, that's my number one on here. Yep.
And yeah, a lot of games are using that, like Call of Cthulhu. The BRP system has that where you roll an extra die and take the lowest or highest for your percentage. That's great. Dragonbane has it. That's a great mechanic that takes away the floating modifiers almost entirely from the game. And yeah, that's a big deal, honestly.
I'm not saying I think it's perfect, but it definitely was. And it's also, to be fair, WotC wasn't the first company to ever come up with the idea, but I think they're the first one to codify it in such a manner, though, that made it ubiquitous. And now everybody's copying it like they did World of Warcraft. All right, so let's go up to Timothy there. So again, what are some of the most innovative mechanics you've seen in TTRPGs, and how do these mechanics enhance role-playing and gameplay? You know what? I actually should have grilled Fritz on that. I'll come back to that, though. It's, exactly how does this enhance the role-playing and gameplay? Because I think that's important for people who are watching and understand. It's like, great, you like advantage, disadvantage, but what does it do for us? So go ahead, Timothy. What are your thoughts on innovative and then how it helps?
Fritz stole my answer. I mean, you thief. Because I was going to say advantage, disadvantage was
okay. Then you tell us how it enhances gameplay. Then
a lot of times, especially when you do it in theater of the mind, you're not so concerned about the tactical aspect of other than one of the players says, I'm attacking so and so, I'm attacking baddie number one. Well, I'm going to help him attack baddie number one. Okay, you guys are flanking him, you guys get advantage. Roll your 2 dice and it just makes it better for you. Or just sometimes when it's like do I give you a bonus? What you're doing have an equal chance of passing or failing. Roll 2 dice, see what happens. I think that it's in times of instead of applying a bonus, sometimes it comes down to a coin toss in your mind, and so rolling 2 dice, see what happens. It may succeed wonderfully, it may fail horribly, but one of the aspects. The other aspect that would make game mechanic that I'm interested in, at the very least, is the traveler life system to generate the character. I would love to sit down and figure out how can I make that work for Palladium, because I think that could make some very.
I can actually give you the book that will do it.
Oh, okay.
Actually, it's a 3-book series. Central Casting, written by Paul Jaquez. I know I'm supposed to call him Janelle now, but this was back when he was still Paul, so I'm dead naming. Deal with it. But it's Central Casting, Heroes of Now, Heroes of is it Fantasy, and then Here's the Future. I can show you after this is done. I can show you. I have the books, and they're great for Palladium because they're so over the top. Sometimes clown shoes that a Rift's character would never even notice the difference. But go ahead.
Go ahead. It was just how to incorporate it with the rules, or what changes will I have to do to the rule system to make it work. But yeah, that's one of the things that I'm interested in probably sitting down and exploring to see what we can do. I might submit it as a Rifter if I ever get it to work right.
Okay. Before we go into the next question, which is literally just the opposite of this one, I'm going to give my points on this one because you guys honestly took what I had on here. The first one I had was advantage, disadvantage, because I really do think that it is simplified in a meaningful manner. And to me, things are about viability and meaningfulness. And it's not perfect. There are times when I think modifiers handle the situation better, but when you're just kind of like, you know what, you're kind of in a compromised position, roll 2d20 and take the lowest two. You know what, you've got it in advantageous position. Just roll those 2d20 and pick the highest one. I really think that sometimes that can just keep things moving. See, I'm not one of those people. As much as I'm a role player, and I don't think I'd fully fit in, but I hear what Rick's trying to do with the RPG Crusade, and I understand. I also believe that there's a game in here, so I never have had an issue with like initiative slowing a game down. I've never, even if I'm writing my game to kind of rip it out to some degree, I've never had an issue with, hey, you know what, I've got to refer to a chart. I'm an old guy. I don't mind referring to a chart in my game and things like that. But there are some times when it's like, we don't need to dwell on this. Just roll the dang dice. Let's just move on. I think that's where advantage, disadvantage really comes into play, and I do like it as much as 5e is my bane of existence. Going to the earlier edition of D&D than that, and Rick talked about this to some degree, just didn't use these terms. The 4th edition mooks, codifying the concept of the mooks. Again, was it the first game to do it? I don't know, but it was definitely the first one that I saw that just codified. And it's D&D is still the 800-pound gorilla, even with 4e. That idea, like one hit and they're out. One hit and they're out. You just got to go through. Can they be dangerous? Sure. In numbers, they can be dangerous. They can slow you down. They can still do things that give the bad guy, the main bad guy, if you want to call him that, an advantage. But you are going to get through them. Well, as long as you hit. But Rick, not Rick. Sorry. Fritz was talking about the resources. Yeah, one of your resources is hit points, and their job is just to maybe take a couple of hit points away from you. Now make that fight against the big bad or the lieutenants a little more dangerous. You're going to win, but going back to what Rick was saying, and I mentioned this as well, but the modifius momentum, I like that concept of like building it forward. Again, I prefer the Coriolis system more, but the idea that when your role is good enough, you can actually pay it forward to something you do next or to one of the other people in your party. I like that concept. The push the roll I have on here. I also have social encounters. I love Free League social encounters because they're not like 90 pages of interaction to try to figure out what's up, but they're more than just, hey, game master, you figure it out. Because the way I look at it is players always think they rationalize the best argument in existence, right? And like they're all like, come on, just makes sense. I said, if you don't agree with this, you're just stupid. I've seen a lot of that in the various games that I've been around. Well, now they've codified kind of a good middle ground, which is, do you have more people? Are you asking or are you giving him something of value in return? Or are you just browbeating him into giving it to you? Is he hurt? Is he not hurt? These things come into play as to like, who would have the advantage with this role? And I love the way they put that together because it's simplistic. It's a small chart of like 6-7 things, but it's enough to say, you know what? You're not in such an advantageous position that you think you are. And I don't care how well you rationalize your stuff. Communication is an emotional tool and he doesn't agree with you. So go piss off, Another one that I really like, now I'm going really old school now, is Shadowrun's damage codes. I know some people, that gives a lot of people heartburn. But I love the old school Shadowrun damage codes because every single person in the game had 10 hit points. It doesn't matter who you are. Everybody has 10 hit points. It's your ability to resist that damage through dodging or armor or whatever that made it that made those 10 hit points. How many of those hit points could you take away? And it was the first game I played. I know it's not the first game in existence, but it's the first game I played that actually had I guess you'd call it kind of a death spiral system because your target number goes up. All your target numbers go up. When you take 4 points damage, it goes up. When you take 3 more points damage, it goes up again. When you take 2 more points of damage, and then all of a sudden you're out. I love that concept. White Wolf ended up having something similar to it. I really like that. And then the final one I had on here is I love Palladium's action reaction system, especially when you consider that people have different amounts of actions and reactions per round. Some are automatic, like parrying and so forth. I get that, but the point is it's not just roll, hit, damage. It's roll, hit, I'm going to try to block that thing damage, Oh, roll hit, I'm diving out of the way. That cost me an action. That's fine. But you know what? That's going to hurt if he gets me with that. Or I'm going to try to disarm. Or you know what? I'm going to save an action because I think this dude's going to try to punch me and it's going to hurt if he does. So I want to save an action to try to dodge out of the way in case he does. I love that. I don't like the gamification of it, but I love the concept of that back and forth action reaction thing. And I think they all add to the play. I probably didn't get enough into that, like what they all add to the play, but I think the Palladium's action reaction system, for example, is it's fast paced enough to keep the combat moving, but it's also, considerations. Do you want to just try going balls to the wall? Or do you want to be a little more reserved, like, whoop, block, how do you want to do it? And you do that while you're playing in a cinematic style. And I personally think that's a benefit to the hobby. So, but those are my opinions. And now we're going to move on to the next one. We'll come back for conversation on this toward the end. For the last question of the night, last real question, I might have a follow-up. And I will start with, I don't know who I started with last time. I'm going to start with Rick just because I'm looking at him for some reason. What are some innovations you feel that failed? By the way, I've got 3 on my list, but I only know of 2 of them. Somebody else came up with the 3rd one. I'll ask GM Fritz about it because he'll probably know better than anybody.
Yeah. I think the most egregious for me would be the balance.
Okay.
I'm not a big proponent of forced balance in a game. You don't see that in any kind of movie. You don't see that in any kind of novel. You don't see that in any kind of, we just don't do the balance thing. It just seems so weird to me to have a full on, balancing rule. A lot of focus on balance. I'm not a big balance guy. So for me, just removing, I've never done balance when I've played 2nd edition AD&D way back in the 80s.
Right.
Never done that. I just find it such an odd thing to bring in. But I don't know. Okay. That's my take. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so like when we were talking about this earlier, when I was bouncing this off a couple of coworkers, we bounced off a lot off each other, and almost every time we came to find out, it's just more play style. That's not really a broken, that's our bad innovation. That's just play style. But I think what you said there is actually an innovation that, or at least a concept.
It started back in the in what third edition basically, yeah. And that's when I came back, was when 3rd was on. I was playing a lot of Monty Cook's whatchamacallit heroes.
Mutants and Masterminds?
No, it was a D&D style game, but it was more like Conan kind of thing. It was like low fantasy, and that was my 3E experience. So it was very ingrained within the 3rd edition rules, and balancing I'm not a big fan of at all.
Okay, well, let's ask this question right now since you brought it up. Let's go ahead. Please give an example of balance issues that made no sense. I got an easy answer for that one.
The thing is, if I'm encountering a dragon, it's usually for dramatic reasons. The players are likely not going to attack it, and say he has troll guards, these big abominations with spikes and everything, and big massive clubs and cleavers. And, the players are here to, talk to the dragon and negotiate a peace deal on behalf of the town down below.
Please don't eat all their virgins. We like them.
Yeah, that's right. We just don't want to have any more virgins being brought up. But the idea that I have to balance, this particular thing out of why do I have to balance it? I don't understand, the thing behind it, because you'll see movies where this guy's definitely outclassing one of the characters, the kids You know, like if we're saying something like Kids with Bikes or something like that, some sort of movie like that, and they're facing adults and stuff like that. You don't expect the kids to be like, manhandling adults and
unless you're Macaulay Culkin.
Well, there you go. Just pump them full of meth in a way. Yeah. But no,
Wow.
I'm not a big proponent with that with having balance. You're going to encounter stuff like you do in real life. If I go outside, what chances of me running into a bear are very low. But if I encounter a bear and I'm not armed, you could probably say bye-bye, right? Or a moose even,
Oh,
we
God,
got
moose.
more moose up here, that's real life. That's I'm imitating a dangerous world, it's it in a modern sense, in a sci-fi sense, in a fantasy sense. I don't consider.
I don't like the challenge rating idea, or that's what it's called, challenge rating idea at all. I hate the concept. Now we got a super chat for $20. That means I interrupt some people. So Law Dog says, yes, Rick. So many games have fallen victim to the never-ending futile quest for balance. Balance is so overrated, unrealistic. It's one of the reasons I love Palladium. Palladium doesn't even pretend to be balanced. Yeah,
there you go.
I'm in agreement with both of you guys on this one. In general, they should be challenging, but you shouldn't be trying to find any sort of balance. Some encounters are just going to be more powerful than the characters. They still have a chance. They should always have a chance. Or at least they should always have an out. That's the better way to say it. They should always have an out. On the other side, you know what? Sometimes they just come across the mook, so to speak, and what metal do your players have? Are they the type to help the mooks out, or are they the type to just murder hobo them all and take their stuff,
Yep.
All right. Thank you, Law Dog, for the $20. I know you got another super chat in there, but we'll get to that in just a moment. Let's go to GM Fritz. What are some innovations that you feel failed?
Well, I got to say the balance thing, I totally agree with you, Rick. Spot on. But I'll get into that a little bit after this answer for the question here. I think not so much the rules, but not so much the ideas behind the rules, but the mechanics behind them. And I think first edition AD&D had some whoppers in there. And I'm thinking, first off, I'm thinking the armor type versus weapon table. The way that was implemented was so freaking clumsy.
We tried to use that in second edition, and we wanted to use it, but you're right, it was clumsy.
But it's a great idea.
Yeah. Yep.
If you want depth in your game like that, that's great, but just not that way. It doesn't work. But yeah, that was an example of something that just didn't cut it for me anyway. And I think they had that in second edition too, didn't they, Max? And
yeah. It was optional. It was optional rules in second edition. I think it was in the DMG, not the player's handbook. We tried to use them at one point, and we realized no, because this. Wait, hold on. Is it +2 or no? Forget it. That was already a thing enough as it is. Let's just move on.
Yeah, great ideas, but it just didn't come across.
Can I ask you a question about another D&D innovation, so to speak, on that one, to get your thoughts on this? What about casting time and speed factor in second edition?
Second edition?
I don't think they may have had it in first.
Speed factors first.
Was there? Okay, I wasn't aware of speed factor in first edition, but okay.
But I think first edition was, again, a little bit more clumsy since you're keeping track of segments and stuff like that. But it's a great idea. One of the reasons I like the game, but it's just, man, it's so freaking clumsy. Second edition, I know it's in there too. Again, it's great ideas. I just think they could have been implemented better. I would love to have that kind of stuff in my games because I like that kind of depth. And I like the rules and the dice to tell that little story there of what happens. So I like it. I like that.
I love speed factor and casting time in second edition AD&D because I'm one of those people that I want you to make choices not just based on what's got the biggest number, but you know what? I'm going against a caster. I probably want to use a dagger. You might not kill him in one hit. Well, I mean, they got low hit points anyway, but that only has a speed factor of 2. Most of his spells are going to have a higher speed factor than that. I now have a higher chance of winning it as he's going humming, it's like poke, poke. I like that versus as he's humming, and I'm about to come down on him, and then he freezes me in place because he casts hold person. I like. I guess you could call it a tactical consideration, but the idea of having different weapons for different purposes, and that's why I liked it. And I'm also a big proponent of you either use speed factor and weapon speed, or you use neither. But I probably shouldn't take up other people's time here. So, Timothy, innovations that you feel failed, and then we'll get back to you, Fritz, because I know you had a comment about the what were you talking about, Rick?
Balance.
Oh, the balance. Yeah, balance stuff. Oh my God.
Yeah, balance, speed factor. I don't like it. Much of 4th edition. It makes a great video game, but not nothing. It's horrible.
But what specifically was an innovation of the game that you feel that failed?
I understand that the whole, if they were limiting a lot of abilities dramatically, in my opinion. It was the encounter daily.
What you took it from me. I'm with you 100% on that. I hated that concept.
That concept is what really did it for me. But the system makes a great video game. I love. Never.
Yeah, it's an MMORPG on table.
Yes, it makes a great video game. But on table, no. I was like, I can only do this once per day. At first up, why? I'm 9th level. I can still only do this once per day. Why? That was one of the main things for me. 3rd edition did when they did the what's the brain fart? When you're not your core class, but your elevated class or
prestige,
your enhanced prestige class. Yes, that actually opened up the door for some really over the top, overpowered concepts.
There's Lego. Yeah. I call them Lego characters, and I hated prestige classes as well because they're Lego characters.
I like the idea of the prestige class. Don't get me wrong. I would love to be able to do that in Palladium. I think, but
all people do is mix and match the best bonuses to get. They don't go for the thematic stuff. No, they get the best bonuses to be the best killer, the best warrior, or the best spells or whatever. That's all they ever went for, at least in the ones that I saw. And I played a lot of 3.
Yes, yeah. I have a friend of mine that's freaking rogue, and with 2 other classes had initiative over 40. I mean,
and how much sense does it make? Well, I started off as a thief, then I became a warrior, then I became a barbarian. Oh, and then I became a wizard. What barbarian becomes a wizard? But you did it anyway. And then you know what? I found God. It's like what?
Wow.
But if you limit that a little bit more, if they would have pulled that back some, it's like you can only have 1 prestige class. Or something that, or
break it in. You have a core class, and then you can pick one of, say, 5 subclasses underneath that once you hit a certain level. Or
I think that would have made it a lot more impactful and meaningful. Other than just, I just want to make the most broken character I can.
Well, it was definitely Lego characters. All right. I'm going to say that you all missed the most important one ever, and I can't believe it, and you call yourself D&D players. I cannot believe this.
I'm not a D&D player.
You mentioned you played it. You started with it.
I play it.
It's your fault because you've been playing longer than all of us.
You've been playing longer than I've been alive.
I made my mistakes. Okay.
D&D grappling. Grappling in Dungeons and Dragons is the worst innovation, non-innovation, not broken, whatever thing ever. I find it funny now. I love the chart just to be like, no, you did a haymaker, but I was trying to kick. Shut up, you did a haymaker, whatever. But I mean, I get it. It was just trying to fill a concept at the time. But you'd think after 5 editions, well, if really 5 editions plus minor editions, but 11 editions of the game, they'd have a good grappling system in place, for the game, and they still don't. For Palladium, simultaneous attacks. People can argue it all day and all night. I get it. I understand what you're saying. I disagree with you. Just because I don't care doesn't mean I don't understand. Simultaneous attacks are stupid. And this one's for GM Fritz because I don't fully understand this, but this came up at work today. Sunder and Pathfinder. Apparently that's broken. It's a bad innovation.
Breaking their weapons. I wouldn't necessarily say that's a bad innovation, but
apparently it was like overdone or something. Broke another weapon. Broke another weapon. Broke another weapon. Broke another.
I can see that.
And what, 2E?
Well, I think he was talking 1E.
Well, that's 3.5.
Yeah, I can see that. But grapple, I used a grapple as a 5th level character to pin down a 9th level opponent, and freaking I suplexed the guy, giving my allies advantage in attacking him. So I get exactly what you mean, and Palladium grapple is something I want to dive into a little bit more as well, because that can be just as overpowered, if not more so than simul attack.
You've got to learn the grappling of Palladium because they've got a lot of weird references all over the place, and don't get wrapped up into, well, Ninjas of Super Spice says this, and Beyond the Supernatural says this other thing. Do it for the game that you're running, and then only if you need that other stuff. Stay away from Ninjas of Super Spice unless you really are using all those abilities.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've already broken my fantasy game with Ninja of Super Spice.
Hey. There you go. You know, that character can die, and all of a sudden you don't have to worry about him. Okay. Anyway, let's knock out some of this chat here, and then Fritz, I haven't forgotten about you yet. We'll have you talk about the game balance thing, and then I think we get ready to wrap this up. Because by the way, thank you, Rick, because I know I told you it'd be about 2.5 hours, and we're already pushing 3, so I appreciate you hanging out here.
It's okay.
Law Dog says the Price is Right method for percentile skill checks is very innovative, and I've used it for years, although I didn't know it by that name. Yeah, we talked about this on my Discord. My friends and I called that the Price is Right method. And it started for us with AD&D 2nd edition when you were making attribute checks. And so what it'd be like, you'd have a non-weapon proficiency, and let's say non-weapon proficiency said wisdom -2. Well, your wisdom's 14, -2 is 12, so you want to roll a 12 or less. Well, we played the idea that the 12 was the perfect roll, so we called it the Price is Right method, because you want to roll the closest you can without going over. And so yeah, that term, I put it on Discord, now people are using it, and I really like that. Now, the reason I don't use that in my Palladium games is because I have a house rule that includes potential, not always, but potential critical successes for rolling low. So I don't want to tell you to roll that number, and the reason why it's always low is because I don't want to have to think about it. It's just easier. Okay, you roll 1 or 2 or 3, maybe. I might add in something extra on there. Otherwise, I'd probably use that for Palladium as well. But yeah, I love what we call the Price is Right method. Stop double clicking. Stop double there. Anywho, and then I think this is more for you, Rick. But just in case anyone here ever plays Sword of Cepheus or Westlands, I can't read that. Sorry. I have bad eyes, and it's small on my screen now. It's a modified traveler for fantasy.
Yes, I do have Sword of Cepheus. I know if I was to use those rules, I would actually use the 2nd edition Mongoose rules overall, as in the mechanics wise, and that also includes a advantage disadvantage roll as well. So which I didn't say lately as a thing, but yeah, that is included in Traveler rules. But I do like the idea of the skills not being their own little mini game. I prefer the whole thing being a very easy for players to manage, to conceptualize in their heads. And I think I would definitely play Cepheus. But I would play it with the 2nd edition Mongoose rules.
Okay. Well, we're going to go around the horn one more time here. This is going to be the last thing we do. So Fritz, what I'd like you to do is talk about the game balance thing that you wanted to mention. If you have any final questions, comments, and current concerns for the other guys here, go ahead and bring them up now. And finally, be sure to plug anything that you want to plug about your channel and yourself.
I just wanted to kind of play the other side of the balance thing, because I'm not a big fan of balance.
Okay.
But there is a good side of it, and it is a useful tool, because let's remember, our rule books are a book of tools. Ultimately, That's what they are. And balance I kind of liken it, if you're a war gamer, collect miniatures and play war games, there's a similar concept where you build your armies with point systems, so that they're reasonably balanced with each other. And people in the wargaming community are always complaining and bitching and moaning about that. Oh, it's not realistic. It's not like a real battle. That doesn't make sense. Yeah, I get it. But balance, both in wargaming and role playing, is a useful tool for a GM, especially if you're new, to gauging what the capabilities are compared to the player characters. And that's useful for building your adventures. So for a beginner, it's great to have that tool in your toolbox, this balancing challenge rating or whatever you call it. It's useful to have that there. It also helps the GM if he wants a certain level of involvement from the players, a certain level of challenge for his players in the game during a story. Like, how is he really going to know if this is just going to be a resource encounter, a resource draining encounter, or something that could be really destructive and kill half the party? You know, if it's a really good balanced system, like the Pathfinder 2e system is very robust and balanced, it's useful to have that. So I was just going to say it does have a use in the toolbox. Balance.
Okay.
Otherwise, whatever.
No, I mean that you make a good point. Again,
Yeah.
I'm against balance myself, but I think that is a good point, and I'm sure that's also why the idea, or part of why the idea is so prominent now with folks, is because, beyond what you said, it also can keep a game in check. Like, I want to challenge my players, but I don't want to kill them. So how do I do that? Well, according to the game, this CR, they have a CR of 13, then I need to make a CR 13 encounter. If I make it 12, 11, 9, 8, whatever, then it might be too easy for them. But if I make it 15, 16, it might wipe them out, especially in games where individual levels really, really matter. It's one of the reasons why I think it was Rick, was you saying, or was it Fritz was saying, old school D&D, I mean, thieves leveled up like that, but I didn't care. Please, thief, level up, because you're going to be finding all the traps, and your percentages suck right now. So level. Sure. I don't care that the wizard only has one spell. Level. So I like that personally, and it gave the classes a different feel. But in a game where, like 5e or 3e or Pathfinder, where that level disparity can actually cause problems, then the balance is more of a, that's not a necessity, but more of a tool, like you were saying, GM Fritz. At least I think so.
The Morpheus Fallout system actually does a pretty well of keeping where you can have multiple levels, but if it gets way out, then you may have a problem. Because I'm in a game where I'm.
Well, that's just the Morpheus system, isn't it? 2d20.
Yeah.
Okay.
I like how the does keep it kind of balanced, but you can still get. It's you're not bound by it.
Okay.
I guess.
Well, let's finish up with GM Fritz here. Go ahead.
And it's useful for gauging your campaign progress so far, because as they grow in power, your players grow in power and magic. Are they getting a little too powerful? That more than they should be. It also helps you that way too.
Okay. And you just reminded me of something that I didn't mention, but it's too late now. But I'm just going to put the seed out there. Magic items that grow with you is an innovation that I really like. But unfortunately, I don't have time to talk about that now. So we'll get to that some other time. So Fritz, go ahead again. If they have any final questions, comments, concerns for them, go ahead and mention that. Else, please shout out your channel again and what it is you do. And then I'm going to move on to the next person.
Great format. I love the format that you're doing here, Max. It's more productive and it's more thought-provoking in terms of RPGs and gaming, our hobby. I love it. I enjoyed it tonight. I enjoyed seeing Rick again. Long time no see, my friend. And Tim, fantastic meeting you. Had a good time. I like it, Max. And I'm GM Fritz, formerly the GM's Alcove. Now I got to look at my title, Forge and Brush Gaming.
And you can find a link to his channel in the description. Yes. Please subscribe to his channel.
Yes. And it's all wargaming, role-playing games, board games, especially historical, because, hey, I'm a history nerd. Really get into that. I also paint my miniatures on there. I do commission painting, of course. You can learn all about that over on my channel. And lots of role-playing stuff, Pathfinder and otherwise. We got Dragonbane coming up Sunday. You can watch it live on Twitch and one of my players streams over there. Otherwise, you see it every Monday. I put out episodes of my current game sessions, and that's going to be Dragonbane this Monday. So that's me.
Cool.
Forgebush Gaming.
Awesome. Well, let's go on over to Rick, 28 millimeter. Go ahead, and if you've got any final questions, comments, concerns for these guys, go ahead and bring them up. Else tell folks what you do.
Yeah, I'm Rick, 28 millimeter RPG on YouTube, also known on X as well as 28 millimeter RPG with my funny letters, but everybody can get me by how it's done here. Part of the RPG Crusade, a group of guys just focused on in-character role play. And if you're interested, give us a video and tell us why you want to join up with our group, and we'll give you the Discord. And away you go.
Have your agent contact him with
and then
your.
we'll
with
do
your...
the contracts and everything. It's very simple. It's very, very simple.
Modest entry fee.
No, it's free. It is free. It is free.
They have the casting couch.
oh boy.
All right. Timothy Pirelli, go ahead and get any final questions, comments, concerns for these guys. Just tell us what you do, and I think we're about out of here.
Hello, adventurers! I'm Character and Dice, where I make characters so you don't have to. And right now, I'm primarily focusing on Palladium Fantasy. However, I am willing to take suggestions if anybody ever comes to my channel. Just want to say thanks, Max. This was my first real intro to a panel like this, and I had fun.
And you even came in unprepared. Isn't that awesome?
Yeah, even better. It's great meeting you, Fritz and Rick, and
nice meeting you, Tim.
Yeah, it was great, fun.
Awesome. Well, with that, next week I don't have the topic. I think what I'm going to start doing is I'm going to have the topics prepared more than a week in advance because I have like 40 of them, so I can do that, and then I can announce them here. I haven't done that yet. I should probably start. So no, I don't know what the topic for next week's going to be, although I have an idea, and I think it's going to be essentially how to run a fantasy game, but I haven't decided yet. Don't hold me on that. And the reason is because the week after is going to be superhero games as the same time as we close out, or we help. It's not exactly closing out. He's got a couple days left, but Bear's heroic RPG game. So kind of tie those in. So, the week beforehand, maybe we'll do sci-fi or fantasy or something, but we'll figure that out then. But I want to thank GM Fritz for being on here. Rick and Tim, again, absolutely appreciate you guys for popping on in here. The stream, for the people watching the live stream, it's not over yet. We'll be going into segment 5. I know Rick's got to go. He's probably like, dude, shut up so I can go. But for the folks watching this on video, once again, please like, subscribe, and share. These videos go live a month after their stream. So if you want to catch them live, watch the live stream. If you want to catch them after the fact, you can become a member. But I appreciate everybody who's here. Appreciate you guys watching. I hope everybody has a wonderful week.